Well, I don't see anybody else popping in, so we'll go ahead and get started. I really appreciate everybody being here today for our follow-up from the Family Advisory Council in December. Just so you know, we are recording. We do ask you to be muted if you are not speaking. That way we can have good call quality for everyone. We do encourage you to use your video feature. We love to see your face and engaging with you in that space as well. Um, At our last meeting, we went through a bunch of updates and information from the different departments within the department, different divisions within the department. Sorry, we heard some updates from OOD and DD Awareness Day and some family updates, and we didn't get a chance to do the DODD leadership opportunity because we had run out of time. So we've scheduled this time for today, and we're super excited to have the director here with us today. And it's just a chance for us to chat and to hear from you and learn what's happening. So we will get started here very, very shortly. As we do, just to send a reminder that the intent of this time is for us to really hear from everybody who's here and hear multiple issues that are affecting many people across the state. And we want to make sure everybody has a chance to share. If there are any specific concerns related to a specific situation you're having, we're more than happy to connect with you one-on-one to get those things addressed and taken care of. So with that said, I'm really happy to go ahead and turn it over to the director and say, Director Hauck, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for being here with us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me, and good to see everyone again. I apologize for not being able to make it to your last meeting. I think maybe there was a budget meeting or something going on that I had to be at, and so I apologize for that. But I'm happy to be here this morning. Um, I'm not sure what all you talked about last time, but we have a lot of initiatives that we're getting ready to roll out here. Specifically, working hard on the budget. We're excited. Corey, I'm not sure if anyone talked about the Deloitte contract and the waiver redesign work that we're gonna, start working on. So I'm really excited about that work, and we can talk about that if you'd like. And so really, I'll just open it up to you guys. And is there something specific that you want to talk about, or I could talk forever. So
I'll go.
I was
So
gonna
you
say, I
really
know you
do?
guys aren't shy. Hi, Amy.
Well, we're still worried about the DSP crisis and how to help families get through that.
Yeah.
So I know there's a new nursing care shortage grassroots effort amongst some advocates. And of course, we have our Ohio Nursing Coalition who's working on other ways to make the systems work better for those who have nursing and need to keep it, right?
Right.
So that's a collaborative effort that's still going strong. And so the idea is if families can't find aides, how can we help them to get a break and have respite options outside of, a waiver system line item? Or are there any new initiatives for the department to help families maybe find new DSPs and onboard them quicker? Any nuggets that we're going to be hearing about in 2023 to, I'm always an advocate for working with the colleges.
Yeah.
So we got to get those young, fresh minds who are eager to work with our people. But I know there's a lot of other options. It's just the colleges seem to be a low-hanging fruit for me. What do you think?
Yeah. So let's see, we'll start with DSPs. The retention bonuses have been approved and are ready. I think the first payment goes out this week. So folks should be getting those. And again, if you're an independent provider, you automatically get those. If you're an agency provider, you had to opt in. And we had a really good response rate to opting in. The deadline for that was yesterday. So I know we're doing some cleanup today and making sure that people got in that wanted in. And I honestly, I believe the first payment goes out tomorrow. But I'm not positive. So we're happy about that. And then I don't know if you've seen, I think Amy, you actually gave some testimony to the work. So their recommendations are out now and public, that body of work that you all did. So we're combing through that to see if there are things in there that we can work on in the next budget. So I think I just got that report last week. So again, it's the Ohio Direct Care Expansion Working Group. So they put, that final report is out. And I know there were some things about nursing in there as well. Obviously, the budget is going on right now. So we have, been advocates for rate increases and that sort of thing across the board. That would be for nursing and for all services. So, and then I mentioned the redesign work. And, one of the things that respite will be a big focus during that work, along with Ohio Shared Living and other services that I know are important to everyone. I know we haven't looked at that whole package in 18, you guys know better than I do, in 18 years or so. So I think it's really important work, and I'm excited to dig in and get busy on that. And like I said, we did hire Deloitte to come in and help us with that work. And there will be lots of opportunities for you all and others to give feedback and help direct that work. So I'm excited about that. We are working with high schools to, again, in the DSP space, we're working with OADSP to have industry recognized credential. So in high schools, trade schools, that sort of thing, people can graduate with the DSP credential and go right into the field. So we're working with the Ohio Department of Education on that, getting folks straight out of high school to know more about our field and what the opportunities are. And you're right, colleges are great places. We have a whole package of one-pagers, brochure type things that colleges can utilize. And they are targeted towards specific groups of students. So special ed or juvenile justice, and they're just kind of like, you could get this experience to help you when you get out of college, sort of thing. So we have that we've shared with the chancellor and others in higher ed. And we have really talked to local counties about building those partnerships with their local colleges. Those are the things that I would say are in progress or that we've done. And I know there's so much more that needs to be done. When I visited with counties last year, workforce definitely came up at every visit. And I would say every county without fail, the county boards have been involved in some way. So, we require counties now to have a provider liaison, and they really have taken on that role, and many counties will help independent providers through the entire process. And just they're doing lots of things to, I think, help get providers onboarded more, independent providers especially onboarded more quickly. They're also doing things for agency providers like, the background checks and providing some trainings for free, some of that sort of thing. So we're excited to see some of that stuff still going on today, outside of, a lot of counties picked that stuff up during COVID, but we're excited to see that they're continuing it. Hopefully I answered at least a little bit of your question, but yeah, it's a huge issue, I know, that we're dealing with, and it's going to take all of us kind of putting our brains together to figure this out.
Well, thank you very much for answering all of it. It's really good for me. I don't know if it's good for everybody else to hear how you're actively working on it, so that when I take notes, I can take it back to my families and my colleagues. What is being done. I think that's very important for us to help be another conduit with families and the department.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
So
appreciate that,
thank you
Amy.
so much.
Yeah, I mean, clearly we care and we're trying. I know there's so much more to be done. So we met with the Workforce Task Force last week, and I mean, to be real honest, there aren't many new ideas coming out of that group, but certainly if you all have ideas and suggestions, make sure Meredith and Corey get those, or me on these calls, and we're willing to try just about anything.
And I know DRO has been collecting stories from families and individuals, so some of our families have been a part of that as well.
Good.
Well, it works both ways. So, I'd like to help in any way I can as a professional or as a mom. So Meredith and Corey can reach out anytime they think that we or I can help, because it's really important to all of us, like you said, to work together.
Absolutely. I don't know how much you all know about the budget process, but we'll probably have a budget from the governor at the end of the month, the beginning of next month. And so we'll know more about the rates and that sort of thing at that time. I feel like we're in a really good place. But you never know. So we'll see how that goes. And, and then I'm sure there will be lots of opportunities to testify. If any of you are interested in doing some of that, you can do written or come be in person. Just the importance of the rate increases, and, if there are other things that you want to advocate for as well. I know, there are some of the nursing rules that are challenging, and I am just now beginning to dig into all of that. I know around the medication administration and some of that, so I'm working with some folks here at the department to really understand better what your nursing coalition, what you all have been asking for and what the real need is. So I'm sure we'll be in touch about that too.
Thank you. So just to piggyback on that, our nursing collab is just finalized with the delegated nursing roles and responsibilities document. So you'll be hearing from both us at Ohio Family to Family as well as DD Council to find those new nursing documents available in English and Spanish on both of our websites. It's very, very complicated. We did our best to make the language easier to understand, but overall, we're encouraging families and individuals who need nursing, who may be considering using delegated nursing instead with a DSP who has that extra training, to reach out and make sure they're informed as much as possible. So thank you for everything you're doing, and thanks for meeting us today.
Of course. Thank you. I believe it's the 17th already. So I was trying to look at the calendar and look at the computer to see what the date was. Any other topics you all want to talk about?
Hi, I'll go next. My name's Kristen Smith. I'm down here in Ross County. I'm the new family peer support and parent advocate for our Ross County Board of DD. I heard you mention, unfortunately, I didn't get to make the call last month. I had a different meeting I had to attend, but I heard you mention about some changes in the waiver redesign. What does that look like for families, and how will that help? I heard you mention respite when you were talking to Amy a little bit. Can you go into a little bit of that, or is that still pending?
So I'm not sure if you have seen some of the communication that we've put out, and if you haven't, maybe Corey could share. There was a Director's Corner where we put out information about the work that we're going to start doing. So we hired a consultant to come in and just help the department really look at our current waiver system. So kind of from start to end, the assessments, the services, and then, what the billing and all of that jazz looks like then at the end. But really, like I said, it hasn't been done holistically in 18 years. We've done things like added the competency-based add-on, and we've done the medical complex medical add-on and the behavioral add-on. So those are the things that we did to kind of relieve some pressure throughout the system, but we haven't really looked at the rates and the rate model in a long time. So, so that's my goal, is to really take a holistic look and see what we need to do differently. So, one assessment for what your budget would be. Right now we do the AAI, the DDP, and I don't, know, there may be another one. So what could it look like to have one assessment to do that work? And then, I mentioned shared living and respite, technology. I mean, I know those are some of the services that people are struggling to access because the rates just aren't where they need to be. We know that we need to provide services differently in a time where there aren't a lot of DSPs and a lot of nurses and a lot of people, so what can we do differently? And I do think technology is a solution. I do think shared living is a solution. But those things we have to look at those things differently to make them work. So it'll be, from my so I'm being overly, I'm hoping we can get this process done before the next budget. So that's 2 years. And then, really probably have an ask in the next budget for what we'll need to do to move the work forward. And then in the end of the term, there'll be waiver. We'll have to request from CMS, waiver. Why am I lost the word? Waiver something to CMS, and rule changes and all those sorts of things to actually make it happen. So it's going to take some time. I want to be honest and say it's going to take some time, but I think it will be really worthwhile. And there may be some things that we can change quicker. If we can figure out and I don't know this, but if we could figure out shared living, then, you know, we could do that without waiting for an entire rate model to be done, you know. So there are a few services that I would like to look at first. Shared living is one of them. And respite. We know that, you know, Ohio Rise has already done some rate modeling around respite. And so we have not seen that yet. But I am excited to see what that looks like and see if it makes sense for us to just, you know, adopt some of the work that they've done.
Kristen, I've
Thank you.
added some links in the chat if that's helpful for you. I don't know if you have access to the chat.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm still learning
Okay.
so much, so this is perfect.
Yeah, so you'll
Great.
find some information and then resources there as well.
Okay, thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Thanks, Corey.
No problem.
So I know I probably rambled, Kristen. Hopefully that answered your question.
No, it was very helpful. Thank you.
Good. We do have Janet Steffen here at the department. She's a program manager up in our Medicaid division, and she was hired to help us with this whole redesign project. So once we get rolling, you know, she will probably, I'm sure, join some of your meetings to talk about the work that's going on and get your input. We're not really, you know, we've only had the contract with Deloitte, I think, for 2 weeks now. So I think they've had one initial like 30-minute meeting. But feedback is so important to me. And so we will figure out how best to get everyone's input, whether that's, you know, focus groups or meetings like these, or, you know, Janet, I'm sure we'll be meeting with Corey and his team to figure out how to hear from people served and families most efficiently throughout the whole 2-year process. So. I'll say one more thing and then I don't expect it to be like you've seen in the past where we just have a working group, because those just haven't really seemed to work, in my opinion. It's a lot of time and effort for people, and I know you know, families don't typically have that kind of time to commit to a working group. So we really want to be thoughtful about your time, give you things to look at and review and give feedback on. Or when we're talking about shared, you know, maybe bring you together to specifically talk about a service like shared living and get specific feedback and input on that we can take back to Deloitte. I just think it'll be a different kind of feedback process than what you've probably seen in the past.
Is it possible to have a sort of a standing update at the Family Advisory Council meetings on that waiver redesign work once it starts?
To do that.
That might be nice. Thank you.
Like I said, it hasn't really started. I mean, I would give it a couple months.
Right.
But yeah, I'm sure that Janet would come anytime you want her to, Meredith.
Our next meeting is in March.
That'd be perfect.
So yeah, that'll be a good time.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody has anything else to share or to add. If not, I want to briefly circle back to you, Amy. I'm curious, you know, as we look at this families stuck in this, their caregivers. What types of supports or suggestions do you have ideas for that we could provide caregivers outside of obviously, creating a stronger workforce and those sorts of things? I don't know, because I've struggled with this. Do we look at providing some sort of support groups where family caregivers have a chance to come together and share with one another and support one another? Or is there something else that we could be considering in this space as well?
Mhm. I think that's a really good question, because back in my day, when my kids were young, support groups were thriving and powerful, and helpful, very helpful to me personally. Today, not so much, right? It's social media. So, there are still some great support groups out around, but they're not talking about respite. They're not talking or focused on assuring that families are truly taking care of themselves. So I'd like to throw this out there as possibly having a focus group of families and see what they need besides the DSPs. Like, ask families pointed questions. How are you taking care of yourself? What do you need within your community and your household? How can we support you during these tough times? That would be key information that, you have access to thousands of families at the state. And then, of course, at Ohio Family to Family, we're hosting our Building Your Personal Networks workshop, which we'll be hosting at least once or twice again later this year. There's small groups of families. Our first workshop has sold out within 24 hours. So unfortunately, many families who wanted to get in could not. And we have a waiting list just in case if someone backs out. But building your personal network as a family, as an individual, is critical, no matter who you are, where you are, or whether or not you even have DSP support. It's absolutely critical for our lives as a family. So that's why we brought that to Ohio, and we'll be hosting it again. So, I think just continued offerings of like this, of how can we help you, what supports are needed for your emotional support, for your family support. And the challenge is now we have social media. So little memes that remind families of these things as well could very easily be done. And again, I think using social media to reconnect and support families is really the key. So if you have someone young who loves social media and gets on there and posts, 15 times a day, that's what we're all striving to keep up with, is finding those moms and dads and family caregivers who are out there really stressed and don't want to share, and they're isolated. Those are the families that I'm working with that are incredibly challenging. That's all I have to add as ideas.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm curious in the space of supporting family caregivers. That's why I asked. So I appreciate that insight. Thank you very much.
I
I
go ahead.
I actually run a support group. That's kind of how I started. I didn't have one here locally when my son was diagnosed just over 3 years ago. So my son's only 6, so I'm young. This is still in the start of it. You know, it's been 3 years, but it still feels like every day learning something new. So I can learn from people like Amy, who, you know, you said your kids are grown, but started a support group down here because I didn't have that. And it's continued. We're rolling into year 3. Our first meeting of 2023 is Thursday. And I actually have heard from people that it's funny, a lot of the parents in my group are of younger children. I would say 11 and under. Once in a while, we'll get, you know, a teen or an adult, you know, parent come in, and usually they're great guidance for us who, you know, are just starting out or have questions, you know, on different things. But I try to as a group, is because parents won't set aside the time for themselves. We have been trying to do, okay, well, instead of doing our meeting in our regular meeting spot, we're going to go out to dinner tonight. So it kind of separates that. We still end up talking about our kids, but it's a little bit more of a relaxed setting, and they've already got that time set aside for themselves to come to the support group. So it may just be, you know, the same people that come because they know that time's already theirs. They come to get support, and then they come and have dinner, and it's a more relaxed environment here locally. And then I've been trying like once a year at minimum to do some sort of family get together. So then the families can meet each other, the kids can meet each other and see they're not so alone, you know, like siblings and those things. So it can range from, I can have 3 people in a meeting one month to almost 20 the next month. So it still fluctuates every month depending on the busy season, but it's been very helpful. We share resources, and like you said, those topics, that's something we need to start talking about, are these things that, you know, I could get some information and bring back to you guys, or have them join when they can on these calls. So I'll definitely be bringing that up on Thursday.
Thank you very much, Kristen. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. And to piggyback off of Corey's question, Kristen and anybody on the call, I'm curious to learn more about reaching out to families. Kristen, I'm singling you out because I'm interested in learning more how to connect with families in Ross and Southern Ohio. I feel like we get a lot of folks from the big metropolitan area. So I'd love to hear from anybody. What have you found successful in getting more folks involved?
A lot of it I post on social media. So obviously I have the page where I share my events there. I've reached out to, like, I started out in the schools, like really reaching when my son was in preschool. That's when it started. So I started reaching out to all the local schools and sharing that information. And then it kind of trickled into the counties, Pickaway and Pike, where things, you know, where people are like, well, we want this too. And there is a support group now in Pike County. I am in contact with one of the people that run that. They said they struggle a little bit more with getting more people consistently. But I have a couple people from Pickaway County that come to my group, and they bring their friends, you know, like once they've started meeting more people like them, they're like, you need to come here. And we just make it really welcoming. We don't make it too, I think everyone is hesitant to come and talk. Like we said, you know, it's easier to do it online and social media. It makes it easier. You don't want to open up, but I also leave it really open for people that don't want to come to ask those questions or ask for resources. I get a lot of emails, messengers, phone calls, and a lot of folks that I can't answer the questions. I reach out to the board of DD or whoever, whatever they're looking for. I kind of just find them the resources they need. But yeah, it's was hard in the beginning. COVID hit right when I started my group in February. Then March came, and it was a tough couple months. So we did a couple virtual calls. But yeah, it's just been a lot of hearsay. I'm starting again now to contact the schools again, and now that I'm on part of the county board, and reintroducing myself and sharing what we're offering, and trying to connect with people those ways through the schools is what I found. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
I just want to say good for you. Good for you. And congratulations, because that's how I found the best support. I was a very emotional young mom, and
That's me.
I just needed places to go and cry and not worry about anything. So I'm one of those criers, or I was
Me
one.
too.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, you just have to find a safe space to let it out, I find. And I know how much work it is. So Kristen, congratulations. And if there's
Thank you.
anything we can do to help you
I appreciate that. You guys did
maintain
so-
that, yeah, let us know.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kristen. Thanks, Amy. Got about 7 minutes or so left. Any other ideas or comments from folks who have joined us today? So I do appreciate everybody being here. I have contact information for both Meredith and I on your screen. You're welcome to reach out to us, and we're happy to be a resource and answer questions. Our next Family Advisory Council meeting is March the 15th. We've heard from families and people with disabilities that they find the Zoom platform to work much better for them than Teams, and I would say I would agree with that. So we're working to get Teams registration, or not a Teams, see, Zoom registration cleared up and ready to go, and we'll get that out to everybody as soon as possible, as we hope to leverage the Zoom platform for the Family Advisory Council meetings going into 2023. So that's why you haven't seen registration yet. We're getting that together and leveraging Zoom, as we've heard that's what folks would prefer to use. So once we have that, we'll make sure we share it with everybody. In the meantime, never hesitate to reach out to Meredith and I, and we are happy to connect you with resources and do what we can to support you. If there's nothing else, I'm happy to let everybody go. I appreciate you joining us today, and thank you very much, Director Hauck, for being here with us, and for each of you for sharing and listening in today. So thank you.
Thanks for inviting me, and everyone have a great week.